The third quarter of the calendar year concluded a few weeks ago, and so how did the secondary watch market perform in the last 3 months and this year more generally? We'll give you 4 things you need to know about what happened, and we hope these insights are interesting and meaningful to you. All the numbers in this video come from WatchCharts.com. Are you looking to browse listings from the biggest private sales marketplaces across the web? See insights on whether you're getting a good deal or not? Manage your collection and track its value over time? You can do all this and more on WatchCharts.com, the world's most powerful watch market research platform. Dive into the data yourself at WatchCharts.com. The last market update we posted was basically a summary of how the market had done in the first half of the year. And so if you're interested in seeing the talking points from that one, I'll include a link to it both in the description, and you should see one in the top right corner now. But for this quarter, let's start with just observing that prices fell faster in 3Q23 compared to the first half of the year. And so when we say prices fell faster, we mean not just that the rate of decline in market prices, which everyone already knows has been the overarching story for the watch market across all of 2023, continued, but that it actually picked up pace. So if we look at the quarter-over-quarter numbers for 2023, in the first quarter, the market came down. The overall market index, which tracks 60 watches from the top 10 brands on the market weighted by transaction value, fell 2.8%. In the second quarter, it fell 3.4%, and now in the third quarter, it's fallen 5.1%. What we can do then is also look at some of the most highly transacted brands on the market, the brands we call the big 3, which collectively account for nearly 2/3 of transaction value on the secondary watch market: Rolex, Patek, and Audemars Piguet. And so Rolex lost 4.6% in the last quarter and is down over the last year over 11%. And so these brand indexes are basically an index tracking the value of the top 30 most highly traded or most popular references for each of these brands, weighted by transaction value. And that's what's down by over 11% year over year. The Patek index is down 5% in Q3 and is down 16.3% year over year, whereas the AP market index lost between the three the highest or the most, 5.2% in Q3 and almost 20% year over year. And so if we look at the longer term trend here, which goes back to the start of 2021, what we'll see, of course, is the rapid rise in prices leading up to the spring of 2022 when prices collapsed, and they're now down to over 2-year lows for each one of these brands. And if you're interested in sort of digging into that data a little bit more, there's a monthly market update that we publish that I'll also include a link to for the most recent version that goes into some of those movements in more detail. But then if we just look beyond those 3 brands as well and just look at all of the brands for which we publish indexes, then the blue bars here basically show the quarter over quarter change. And what you'll see is that for the vast majority of the brands over the last quarter, those numbers are all in the negative range. There's only a handful of brands that have appreciated in that amount of time. And the red bars show the year over year change, which shows that there are some brands that are still up year over year, such as Cartier, which is up 0.7% year over year, Bulgari, which is up 3.6%, TAG, which is up almost 4%, Tissot, Breguet, Blancpain, Glashütte Original, Breitling, Hamilton, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Chopard, and Frédéric Constant. But your big hitters, Audemars Piguet, some of your hyped brands from last year, Girard-Perregaux, Patek Philippe, Tudor, Rolex, Hublot, and Omega, and Panerai, and Vacheron Constantin, which is the third brand, of course, of the Holy Trinity of Swiss watchmaking, have all lost value in the last year. It shouldn't come as a surprise then that if the market is broadly declining and then the pace of that decline is speeding up, that at least some portion of that, if not a significant chunk, certainly because of the way that we weight by transaction value, that decline would be coming from sports watch collections, which have been some of the most hyped watches over the last few years. And so here, the blue lines are showing you the quarter over quarter performance for the second quarter of this year, and the red lines are for the third quarter of the year. And so every single one of the collections you see on the screen, all the way from Daytonas and GMT Masters to the Overseas, the Royal Oak Offshore, the 2-year Black Bay family, Speedmasters, and then of course the Nautilus have all declined in value over the last quarter, and in some cases quite significantly. The Nautilus, for instance, has lost over 5%, as has the Laureato collection, as well as the Royal Oak collection. The Speedmaster, which was the only collection out of all of these to actually appreciate by less than 1% in the second quarter of this year, is actually down almost 4.5%, or in fact over 4.5% in the last quarter. Number 3, the market response to the Blancpain and Swatch collaboration, the Scuba 50 Fathoms, has been far less frenetic than the response that the Moon Swatch received last year. And so if you see here, what this chart is showing is the premium over retail that you were expected to pay on the secondary market, trended by time, and so weeks after release, for the first 10 weeks after this watch was released in March 2022. And that was over 80 weeks ago. There were 11 variants. The retail price at the time was $260, but today it's $270. And then about 10 weeks after this watch became available, the premium over the retail price that you could be expected to pay on the secondary market was still almost 200%. Now, if we compare over the same time range what's happened to the Scuba 50 Fathoms, first off, it hasn't been out for as long. So it's only been out today for about 6 weeks. And so the data that we've sort of included for this analysis covers the first 4 weeks after launch. There were fewer variants. So there were only 5 of these as compared to the 11 swatches, Moon Swatches at launch. The retail price has been higher at $400 compared to today's retail price of $270. And then if we compare the premium that you would have to pay for a Moon Swatch today, that's about 30% above retail. So all of the Moon Swatches generally tend to trade between $300 and $400 on the secondary market today, whereas the Scuba 50 Fathoms prices today are about 60% above retail, but they started off at less than 200% above retail price. And so that just sort of in stark number terms shows that the demand for these watches on the market, as reflected by the prices that flippers are willing to charge for them, have not been anywhere near as high as the premiums that the Moon Swatch commanded. And then lastly, the Rolex Certified Pre-Owned program continues to expand with more authorized dealers as well as inventory. Just to give a quick recap, the program launched in December 2022 when Bucherer listed hundreds of listings online and was the first retailer to do so. Tourneau, which is owned by Bucherer, followed in May 2023 with over 1,000 listings, somewhere close to 1,500 listings. And all of these listings from both Bucherer and Tourneau tended to have prices that were considerably higher, somewhere in the 15 to 20% range on average, compared to the prices, the secondary market prices that a secondary market dealer would have charged you for the exact same watch at that time. Since then, of course, we know that in August, Rolex bought Bucherer and therefore also Tourneau, and certainly in the market there was this sort of uncertainty around whether or not the CPO program would continue to expand. Well, what we can tell you is that since then, at least 3 other Rolex authorized dealers have come onto the market with CPO inventory that's available for viewing on their website that collectively account for over 1,000 listings. Preston's and Goldsmiths are UK only, whereas Watches of Switzerland has inventory available both in the US and in the UK for CPO. If you were to compare this to, for example, the number of listings that you can observe for Rolex watches on some of your popular marketplaces, this is still a very small fraction. On Chrono24 today, for example, there's over 90,000, almost 100,000 Rolex watches available for sale. eBay has over 50,000. And so the collective amount of inventory available in the CPO program is still a small fraction of the overall market for secondary Rolex watches. What other questions do you have about the current state of the secondary watch market that we can answer for you? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.